All right, let's get into it. Today we're going to break down this really provocative idea called governing by simulation. Now, what is it? Well, it's a powerful critique that basically argues that for some governments, just looking like you're making progress has become way more important than, actually making progress. So, let's dive in.
So right off the bat, the source material just lays out this huge contrast. I mean, look at this. On one side, you've got the glossy vision, right? All the big festivals, the fancy summits, the constant announcements about new deals being signed. But then there's the other side, the reality for everyday people. We're talking potholes, garbage piling up, and projects that seem to be delayed forever. And that gap, that disconnect, is exactly what we're digging into today.
Okay, so what's the core idea here? Well, the source calls it governing by simulation. And the argument goes something like this. All that hard, kind of boring, and often invisible work of public administration, things like fixing pipes or making sure the trash gets collected, is being swapped out for something flashier, event management. It's this major shift, right? Moving away from slow, real results to just scoring these quick, highly visible wins.
So the big question is, how is this simulation actually built? Well, the source points to this first major pillar, which it calls the governance of spectacle. And it's exactly what it sounds like. This is where creating a big, dazzling vision consistently gets prioritized over fixing, well, the boring old reality. And wow, the source pulls no punches with this quote. It argues that these huge events, we're talking everything from music festivals to big cultural gatherings, they're not just for fun. No, the claim is they're specifically designed to create this feeling, this simulation of prosperity and happiness. It's a spectacle meant to distract everybody from much bigger, more fundamental problems.
And this idea leads directly to a really key term the author uses, Potemkin Governance. Now, this comes from an old story about building entire fake villages just to impress officials who are passing through. So in today's world, it's about creating that impressive public front, like a shiny new festival or a freshly painted wall, all to hide the reality that right behind it, things might be falling apart.
And here's where this source makes this whole idea super concrete. It asks a really simple but powerful question about priorities. Think about it. Why spend, say, 5 crore on a festival, but not fix the road that people actually have to drive on to get there? It's a question that just perfectly highlights that massive disconnect between the big show and the basic stuff that people need.
Okay, so the next pillar of this whole argument moves us from the big, flashy spectacles to, well, paperwork. The source calls this one promises on paper, and it's all about how these non-binding agreements and big future plans are presented to the public like they're already done deals, like they're finished accomplishments. And a prime example of this? The author points straight to all those signings of memoranda of understanding, MOUs. The argument is that these are basically pure political theater. I mean, what is an MOU? It's just a promise to work together. It's not a finished project, not even close. But they're announced with these huge ceremonies, and everyone's asked to celebrate an idea as if it's already a reality.
This slide is really interesting because it breaks down the critique so clearly. Let's look at this. On one side, you've got the MOU. What is it? A promise. What's it cost to sign? Pretty much nothing. But how is it presented? As a huge achievement. Now, on the other side, you've got a real executed project. It's a tangible result, it costs real money, it takes real work, and yes, it's an achievement. The whole point the source is making is that this governing by simulation blurs that critical line between the two.
And this quote, "A vision without a budget line item is a hallucination." Oof, this really sets up the critique of another tool in this playbook, the vision document. You've all seen these, right? Vision 2030, Vision 2040. The source claims these are often just a way to kick the can down the road on accountability. The message is basically, hey, don't worry about today's problems. Look at our amazing vision for the future. But like the quote says, if there's no actual money behind it, is it a plan or is it just a nice dream?
Okay, so that's the theory, but this is where the source really brings the argument crashing down to earth with a reality check. We're going to look at a series of really sharp questions that just expose that massive gap between the grand visions and the actual services people have to deal with every day. So first up, the smart city vision. The source poses the question, how can we seriously talk about a high-tech, futuristic city in 2026 when right now traffic is so bad it has to be policed by hand? I mean, it's just this incredible clash between a really lofty promise and a failing everyday reality. All right, next, the source points out what it sees as a huge contradiction.
You're trying to brand your state as this amazing ecotourism destination, right? Okay, great. But at the very same time, you're allegedly letting unregulated mining destroy the caves and the natural beauty that tourists would, come to see? It just doesn't add up.
And this next one, uses the sheer scale of time to make its point. We're not talking about a small delay here. The question is about taking 50 years, a half-century, to build one single medical college with just 50 seats. The source presents this as just a profound failure of administration. The sheer length of that delay, that's the entire point.
And finally, the source brings up a really dramatic real-world event, a garbage lockdown in July. This is where citizens literally had to block roads with piles of uncollected trash just to demand basic sanitation. The author argues this isn't just a protest. This is what it looks like when the system completely breaks down. It's the ultimate sign of failure. It's what happens when the simulation can't hold up anymore and reality just bursts right through. So, after that really intense reality check, we land at the final and maybe the most important part of the whole argument, the accountability question. If governing just becomes a big performance, who's actually responsible when the show goes off the rails? Okay, so let's do a super quick recap of the core argument we've just unpacked from the source. Number 1, real governance gets replaced by event management. 2, big spectacles are used to simulate success and distract from failure. 3, paper promises like MOUs and vision docs take the place of actual, real work. And 4, the result of all this is a massive, deep disconnect between the official vision and people's everyday reality.
And that leaves us with this final, really powerful question, adapted from the source material. When governance becomes a performance, who's making sure the show is actually serving the public? Who holds the performers accountable? Is the whole production for the audience, or is it just for the actors up on stage? It's definitely something to think about long after the curtain falls.